Right then, hello people. Welcome to our live seminar. This is Milad Resaeimanesh, the Central Committee of Ex-Muslim in Scandinavia spokesperson. I would like to welcome everyone watching this seminar live. Today we have four special guests who accepted to be in our seminars. In the next 2 hours, we're going to have discussions about Islamism, challenges, and solutions. This program is live. It broadcasted through Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and Twitter channel of Central Committee of Ex-Muslim in Scandinavia. If you watch this program live, please feel free to express yourself or ask any question you like through comments. I'm gonna show the comments on the screen, and I'm gonna raise the question with the panelists, and then hopefully they're gonna have enough time to answer you guys. Today we have four guests. Mina Ahadi is the founder of the Council of Ex-Muslim in Germany. Cemal Yucel is the founder and leader of Central Committee of Ex-Muslim in Norway. Yasmine Mohammed is an author and ex-Muslim activist, and Wenhammar is a feminine activist. I would like to use this chance to welcome everyone to the seminar. All right then. First speaker, Mina Ahadi, gonna talk about the things she would like to point out. I would like to mention Mina gonna talk in German, and during the seminar, I'm gonna translate what she's saying into in English. So Mina Ahadi gonna have 5 to 7 minutes to talk about what she would like to point out. Then I'm gonna read the statement she said me the day before, and then we're gonna move on the seminar with the other panelists. Mina Ahadi, first of all, welcome to the seminar. And second of all, the floor is yours. You can start now.
Thank you. Dankeschön. Ich bedanke mich sehr viel und ich bin froh, hier zu sein. Ich kann leider nicht Englisch, nur Deutsch, und rede ich auf Deutsch, und das wird schon übersetzt. Wir haben vor 13 Jahren in Deutschland eine Organisation gegründet namens Zentralrat der Ex-Muslime, weil ich war in Deutschland und am Anfang alle waren Ausländer, und in laufender Zeit habe ich gesehen, Millionen Menschen haben wir einen Stempel bekommen, Moslems. Und dann habe ich in Deutschland gesehen, die islamische Organisationen, verschiedene Organisationen aus verschiedenen Ländern haben zusammengearbeitet, und die deutsche Regierung hat mit dieser islamischen Organisation eine Islamkonferenz organisiert und haben die gesagt, wir reden über Angelegenheit von 4 Millionen Moslems, die in Deutschland leben. Also ich habe gesehen, islamistische Bewegung oder islamische Bewegung, politischer Islam ist aktiv auch in Deutschland und in Europa. Und die Regierungen haben mit diesen Islamisten angefangen zusammenzuarbeiten. Also selbst ich komme aus dem Iran, und meine Lebensgeschichte ist so, kann man mit dieser Lebensgeschichte auch mit politischer Islam und islamischer Bewegung noch mehr sehen, wie funktioniert dieser politische Islam. 1979 im Iran war eine Revolution, dann Islamisten haben Macht gewonnen im Iran leider, und man hat dort gesehen, wenn in ein Land Islamisten Macht gewinnen, dann wir verlieren alles, besonders Frauen verlieren alles. Ich habe dort gesehen, die erste Aufruf war entweder Kopftuch oder schlagen wir euch, und wir haben also tausende Frauen, ich auch, wir haben gegen diese politische Islam auf die Straße gegangen und haben wir gesagt, Frauenrechte sind weder östlich oder westlich, sondern universal. Das war eine sehr große Bewegung für Universalität der Menschenrechte und Frauenrechte. Aber in laufender Zeit habe ich gesehen, Islamisten haben angefangen mit Brutalität, mit Mord und mit Steinigungen. Also wenn diese Bewegung irgendwo Macht bekommt, dann verlieren wir alles, alle Rechte, homosexuellen Menschen, andersgläubige, Atheisten, und auch dazu gehört Brutalität pur. Ich habe gesehen, Frauen wurden auf die Straße gebracht und gesteinigt, und damals habe ich gesagt, warte Mina, wenn die Weltöffentlichkeit von so etwas hört, die Uhren bleiben stehen und die Fabriken bleiben stehen, und Menschen geben eine Antwort gegenüber dieser sehr brutale Bewegung. Aber wenn ich in diese Weltöffentlichkeit war, wenn ich 1990 nach Wien gekommen war und dann 1996 nach Deutschland, habe ich gesehen, Weltöffentlichkeit macht mit. und sieht nicht, das ist eine sehr, sehr wichtige Bewegung und man muss etwas dagegen tun. Ich habe in dieser großen Welt mehrere Veranstaltungen teilgenommen, in verschiedene Universitäten gegangen und Rede gehalten. Und ich habe immer wieder gesehen, erstens, Regierungen arbeiten mit dieser politischen Bewegung zusammen, mit der Hoffnung, dass die beruhigt werden oder keine Terror irgendwie eingefangen in Deutschland oder in Europa. Und auf anderer Seite habe ich Postmodernisten und Multikulturalisten gesehen, die glauben auch, Steinigung ist ein Kulturphänomen zum Beispiel und die Universalität der Menschenrechte oder Frauenrechte unter Frage stellen. Das ist eine wichtige Sache. Also wir haben weltweit sehr viele Probleme gesehen. Ich habe nicht so viel Zeit. Ich möchte aber hier betonen, nach so viel Terror und nach so viel Elend, wir müssen ein Konzept haben. Das ist mein Punkt. Wir müssen also einheitliche Konzept haben im Kampf gegen politische Islam. Und das ist sehr wichtig. Wir müssen auch europäische Regierungen oder weltweit Regierungen unter Druck setzen und dieses Konzept also durchsetzen. Erster Punkt auf meine Sicht ist sehr wichtig. Wir müssen klipp und klar reden, über welche Probleme wir reden. Also das ist nicht das Problem von Moslems, das ist nicht das Problem von 2, 3 Leute oder 100 Menschen, sondern das ist ein großes Problem von einer politischen Movement, politische Bewegung. Eine Teil sind Salafisten, andere Teil sind verbunden mit Erdogan oder islamische Regime Iran und die sind alle verbunden und arbeiten alle zusammen. Ich denke, wir müssen schon klipp und klar erklären, Terror und Mord, wir müssen alle verurteilen, auf die Straße gehen und wir müssen alle zusammenhalten, wenn zum Beispiel Islamisten verlangen, kein Karikatur von Prophet Mohammed, dann wir müssen alle weltweit das machen. Genau Gegenteil. Und ich habe schon gesehen, sehr viele Medien haben Angst, sehr viele Organisationen haben Angst und das ist nicht gut. Ich denke, wir müssen alle europäische Regierungen unter Druck setzen. Die Organisationen sind nicht Vertretung von Menschen. Schauen Sie in Deutschland zum Beispiel, die deutsche Regierung hat mit diesen islamischen Organisationen genau vor einer Woche noch einmal eine Islamkonferenz organisiert und erklärt, 4 Millionen Moslems leben in Deutschland und die Organisationen vertreten diese Menschen. Ich denke, das ist total falsch und die Organisationen vertreten nur 2% von diesen sogenannten Moslems. Das heißt, ich verlange von allen europäischen Regierungen kein Zusammenarbeit mit Islamisten in Europa oder anderen Ländern. Diese Organisationen sollen als NGO-Organisationen beobachtet werden. Und wenn eine Organisation oder eine Person Mordaufruf gibt, diejenige muss festgenommen werden. Also eine klare Linie. Ich verlange von allen europäischen Regierungen. Ich möchte nur kurz auch sagen, also wenn ich sehr viele Veranstaltungen habe ich teilgenommen, relativ bekannt bin ich in Deutschland und ich werde immer wieder von einem Teil als Islamophob genannt. Islamkritik ist keine Krankheit und wenn man über freie Meinungsäußerung redet und nicht Islamkritik oder Religionkritik ausübt, dann ist das nicht freie Meinungsäußerung und das ist auch sehr wichtig. Ich denke, unsere Arbeit ist sehr wichtig. Wir machen weiter. Ich denke, wir müssen auch also einige Forderungen haben. Zum Beispiel Kinder haben keine Religionunterricht, kein Kopftuch in alle Ämter oder Schulen. Ich denke, Burka muss verboten werden auf die Straße und ich denke, zum Beispiel in Deutschland, Islamkonferenz muss aufgelöst werden. Und letzte Wort ist, dass zum Beispiel Hamid Abdul Samad darf nicht in Islamkonferenz sehr viel reden, sondern Islamisten und Salafisten dürfen dort reden. Und genau deswegen Hamid Abdul Samad hat letzte Mal gesagt, ich gehe nicht in diese Islamkonferenz. Das heißt, Islamkonferenz oder diese Zusammenarbeit muss aufgehört werden. Dankeschön.
Thank you very much, Mina. It was a great practice for my German, and I think most of the people kind of enjoy it. If you guys can understand sort of German. All right, I'm just going to translate what Mina said very quickly in English. If you just give me a second. I'm hoping that you guys can see it now, how it looks. Yeah, it looks fine. All right, I'm going to read it. It's now 30 years that we have organized the Council of Ex-Muslims. We started running the Council of Ex-Muslim due to the fact we immigrants got labeled as Muslims by government here in Europe. The Islamists got recognized as a Middle Eastern representatives, and Islamic institutes got public funds and promoted by public service broadcasters. My name is Mina Ahadi. I'm Iranian, and I have witnessed how the political Islam empowered in Iran after the 1979 revolution. And since then, how the political Islam has become bigger and massive, not only in Middle East, but the whole world. I would like to point out we are now facing a barbaric political movement which commit crimes against humanity under the name of Allah. I know many who had their body organs cut off, many who got stoned, many who got executed, and millions of people who are forcing to obey Islamic barbaric rituals. Nowadays, the ugly face of political Islam is exposed. Though Islamists are still attacking people on the street, the Islamic institutes and mosques and imams are still getting governmental funds. This is a global crisis. We believe it's about time that the world get united and solve the issue regarding the political Islam in the whole world. Firstly, it's our duty to talk about the political Islam. Our voice against Islamism must be loud and clear. We must all stand against the political Islam by all our powers. Sharing the Muhammad's cartoon as much as we can be seen as one practical solution. Governments in West must be under pressure to support anti-Semitist activists and organizations which criticize Islam and Islamism and fight for the right of atheists, LGBTQIS, women, etc. We all know that the ex-Muslim and Islam critics activists get threats on a daily basis. From those who label Islam critics activists as Islamophobe to those who send death threat messages, they all must be monitored and controlled by the government. We all must recognize the fact that children has no religion. Therefore, any attempt by the Islamists to interfere educating children must be forbidden by law. Hijab, both for students and teachers, must be forbidden at all schools and academic places. Burqa must be forbidden in the whole country. Seminars and conferences run by Islamists, which are such a shame for government in Germany and many other countries in the West, must be cancelled. The latest one goes back to educating course for imams immediately after the death of Samuel Paty in France. The seminar where a person like Hamid Abdullah Samad, who got no right to talk, and the seminar which was led by a person like Iman Maziak, the leader of the Council of Muslims in Germany. Therefore, Hamid Abdul Samad left the conference. To summarize, working and justifying Islamism in order to keep Islamists calm and under control is a dangerous policy which must be stopped immediately. Mina Ahadi, November the 21st, 2020. Thank you, Mina, for your speech. In case the audiences or any of the panelists would like to talk about the statement by Mina Ahadi, please feel free to actually share your points. The next speaker would be Yasmine Mohammed. Yasmine, first of all, thank you again to the seminar. And the question would be, I'm pretty sure you are so active regarding this global crisis, as Mina said, Islamism in Europe, Middle East, and the rest of the world. How you see the situation, how you evaluate the challenge of Islamism, and what's your possible solution to overcome the Islamism in Europe, in West, and the Middle East? The floor is yours.
And I also want to thank Mina because I think she did a great job of summarizing the whole issue. And I agree with her 100% with the problems. Obviously, it's a barbaric, unfortunate, in Iran, how the people of Iran are fighting so hard against the Islamist government there, and that's really heartbreaking. But also at the same time, it also makes you feel really proud of them, and and I hope the best for them. And I really feel that they will overthrow that government soon. A couple of things about both what you said and kind of in response to your question, Milad. First of all, with the conclusion of your statement, when you said that it's very dangerous for us to try and just appease Islamists to keep them quiet. We know that that's very dangerous because we have done that in many other countries before, and the results are clear. So we know that there's no such thing as appeasing the Islamists. Now, my family is from Egypt, where the Muslim Brotherhood started. So they are an Islamist group as well. And you could see there for 30 years, the President Mubarak was trying to appease them, keep them quiet, make them happy. There's no such thing. They're not going to stop until they get what they want. And that is exactly what they did. And so I completely agree with you that it is a very dangerous game to play to say, oh, we're just going to appease them and keep them quiet. However, how we're going to fight them, I think, is where we might have different ideas.
Yasmine, I would like to actually raise a question before you go to the solution part of your speak. Why you think that Islamism, or like political Islam movement, is getting bigger and bigger? Like Mina Ahadi mentioned on this statement, after the revolution in Iran, 1979 revolution, the Islamism is getting bigger and bigger. What's the reason, you think? Why is
fear?
What is happening in the world?
I think it's fear. I think it's exactly what Mina said, which is that other governments, other people are feeling like we have to appease the Islamists because otherwise they are going to terrorize us. They're going to use, suicide bombs. They're going to hurt us physically. They're going to terrorize us. They're going to use violence. So we have to appease them and make them. We will basically what they did in a lot of countries all across the Middle East, and you can see this easily if you look at pictures, obviously, of Iran before the revolution, but if you look at pictures of Egypt, Libya, Afghanistan, you name the country, and you saw how people were living, basically secularism was starting to take hold. Women were going to universities, they weren't being forced to wear hijab. There was, the progress was happening. And then after this happened in Iran, it scared all of the other countries into submission. It scared all of the other Muslims into submission, and they're still scared into submission to this day. And so what that means is that your regular average Muslims who do not believe in Islamism are too scared to speak up because they are afraid that they are also going to be attacked. And you see this very recently in France with the one imam that spoke up against the murderer of Samuel Paty. That one imam is dealing with thousands of death threats and is having to be under police protection. So it's very dangerous for your average Muslim to speak up against these Islamists. And that is exactly the aim. That's what they're doing. So Islamists work in conjunction with jihadis. This is the thing. We're talking about Muslims, we're talking about Islamists, we're talking about jihadis. There's all the same spectrum. It's the same spectrum. There's jihadis are Muslim, Islamists are Muslim. You cannot, the separation between these three groups is muddy. And that's really, coming back to your question of why are they growing? I'm hearing these conversations happening all the time on European media where, they will be complaining that the government is trying to crack down on Islamism. And then they'll say, oh, no, this is just normal Islam. Where's the line between normal Islam and Islamists? Right? It's muddy water there. It's not clear. And so what ends up happening is if you're in a secular country and you say, live and let live, I'll practice my religion, you practice yours, but this is a secular country. Everybody is free to practice what they want to practice. Muslims will practice in their homes, they will practice in their mosques. including under that umbrella of Muslims, there are Islamists who will take advantage of these secular laws and say, this is a great opportunity for me to use this loophole and say, I am just a Muslim. I am just practicing Islam. But really, they are going to be encouraging separatism. They're encouraging this Islamist ideology. So the thing is, I have to make it clear too, is there's no such thing as an Islamist ideology. There's no such thing as Islamism. It's all Islam. And this is what makes it confusing. It's one religion. The religion of Islam, just let me finish, Milad. The religion of Islam is inherently political. So this is part of the problem. The religion of Islam is inherently political. And so even though the religion of Islam is inherently political, not all Muslims want to create a caliphate. They don't all want to create a separate political, they don't all want a khalifa. Muslim Brotherhood, Hizb ut-Tahrir, obviously, Islamist groups like that. So they are Islamist movements within Islam. Now, I don't know, how clear I can make myself in such a limited amount of time.
I would like to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I mean, it's a fair point to criticize Islam and say, people believing in Islam has the potential to do something radical, something that they call it like Islamic terrorism. But at the same time,
but I didn't say that. But yes,
governments. Yeah, there are some governments. There are specific political movement that financialize. They pay money to the Islamic groups to be bigger, advertise and stuff. The question would be, there is no real difference between the majority of the people who are labeled as Muslims and those groups who are actually getting money from the governments to practice Islam in West. That's why maybe some people prefer to use the term Islamists rather than Muslims and try to make differences between the majority of the people and Islamists. Can you please make it short? Because
you're right. I mean, statistics show that about 30% of Muslims are Islamists. So you're right when you say the majority of Muslims just want to live peacefully. They just want to live their lives. They're not interested in an Islamist movement. But the reason why my government, your government, so many governments around this world are supporting Islamist movements is because they think that they are supporting Muslims. They are trying to do the right thing. They are trying to be supportive. But because it is not a clear differentiation between Muslim and Islamist, Muslim Brotherhood people aren't going to say, I am Muslim Brotherhood, right? When the Muslim Students Associations are doing their dawah, or when the Council of American Islamic Relations is doing their dawah, they're not going to say, we are Islamists, right? That's something that we will recognize and we identify them as such.
All right.
And I think that's the problem, is there's identification.
One last minute. Can you please answer this question? The question asking about the solution, it's going to come after the first part, but this is a really specific question. One of our audience is asking, I want to ask her if she have any canal in Arabic language, please. I want to visit her Arabic channel. I think
channel.
How he can find you.
I do not have an Arabic language channel, and people have asked me that many times. So that is something that I will be considering in the future, but currently I don't have one. But Mina mentioned Hamid Abdus-Samad, who is amazing and wonderful, and I 100% recommend him. Watch his channel, Box of Islam, and he has many, many videos on YouTube that you can watch.
All right, then. Thank you very much. The next speaker actually of the seminar would be Cemal Yucel. As I said, he's the founder and the leader of Ex-Muslim of Norway. Thank you, Cemal, for being here. The question for you would be, you are actually criticizing the lefties a lot, I think, and then you think politically somehow what so-called lefties are in charge of Islamists to be more promoted in West. If I'm wrong, you can correct me, and then you can start talking about the points you would like to talk about. The floor is yours, Cemal.
Thank you, Milad. Thank you very much. A lot of things have been said, and I'm totally agree with both Mina and Yasmine, actually. There is a lot of problems, Yes, why Islamists are growing in the West? Of course, it's because of one of the reasons is the left wings, most of them, the Islamo left wings. And they have to, as long as they are not waking up, like Macron doing right now, Islamists will grow and grow, because this is the tradition of Islam, and of course, fear. This is a mix of fear, ignorance, and political agenda conflicts in the West. This is the reason that Islamists are growing, I believe. And this is, of course, then is left wing. We have to talk about it. And but the biggest problem, Islamists know that democracy is a gift from Allah. Almost like this, because under the dictators, under other regimes, they have a lot of problems to get to power. This we have seen in Egypt. This we have seen in Turkey. But Erdogan was very smart. He used democracy as a gift, as a train to take it, to come to the target, and then broke the train. The same, Islamists are enjoying all the values and freedom in the West, and they are using them, like freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and everything, to get power one day and get rid of everything. This is the agenda. This is the Islamic totalitarianism and intolerance. So a lot of things have to be said, but already Mina and Yasmina said these things. So I just want to say, Islam, yes, I don't like to actually talk about Islamist or Islamism too, but we have no other option right now, I think, because after 50 years, first time some leaders giving a name to the problem, which have connection to Islam. And they say this is Islamism. Okay, let's talk about Islamism. If we start with that, I think that we will talk about Islam in the future. 150 years more, we will wait, and then we have to talk the real problem. But okay, no problem for me. So Islam is not only religion, but it is also the way of life. It is political, military, social, and cultural law and order. Islamists are using, in Norway even, Islamist organizations, like they say clearly, Islam cannot submit to democracy or any other human invasion. How can Allah's law submit to human law? And if you ask even the ordinary Muslim, do you think Allah's law is higher, or the law of the state that here you are living in is higher for you, that you will submit? I believe any Muslim will say that, of course, Allah's law comes first, but I'm submitting to my country's law too. And now I'm not hateful, okay? I don't say that Muslims are like this, but this is Islam. If you are Muslim, you have to submit Allah's law. It's no problem
Jamal,
how much you... Yeah.
Jamal, I would like to ask you something. Christianity is adapted to democracy, yeah? Why you think Islam cannot be adapted? Maybe some Muslims are not doing a great job.
Of course, adapted. So we are fighting, but how can be adapted? We have to challenge. They have been ridiculized, criticized. Without today, nobody is getting killed by some Christians because of their ridiculing or making caricature of Jesus. But let me just talk a little bit. I can use my time to talk about a little bit about France. I must express the joy and relief I feel after Macron and the French authorities show that they put human life higher than God's, prophets, and other fantasy figures by putting up Muhammad's caricatures on buildings and billboards in public. And not least, most importantly, the authorities will be involved in making a book of religious and political caricatures that include Muhammad caricatures in the schools. And this is the first time. This is like something's new. It should happen long before that, at least after the first massacre of the Charlie Hebdo massacre. They should put all caricatures on the wall of the government buildings. They should say that, yes, we will make books which will include Muhammad caricatures. This is the way you will combat Islamist movement, that you will show them, maybe this is the solution now, I'm talking about that, but we are not giving up our values. This is more important than any other religion or fantasy figures you are believing. So this is a start, and I think it will be good because it's come from high level. But I don't trust any politicians. They are politicians, but at least Macron is said clearly, Islam in deep crisis. We know that Islam have been deep crisis in the last 1400 years, but it's never late, And when he did that, he's leftist or rightist, I don't care. When somebody say something's right or do right, we all have to support. So I'm now missing other country leaders support to Macron.
Yeah. That was my next question. Recently, you wrote an article saying like all the people and like politicians in the Europe are supposed to like support and follow what Macron is doing at the moment. Why you think so? And why?
Because this is not about France. This is not about only France. This is about our freedom values in the West. This includes every country. Because think. All the Western countries have imported a lot of people in the last 50 years from the countries where there is less freedom or no freedom. When you import people from there, you have to think, then you are also importing some people with the same mentality who oppose, who is making less freedoms in these countries. And when you bring them here, and when you couldn't integrate them, assimilate them, what will happen in the future? They will demand, or they will fight, or they will work hard to implement their values. And every country now have the Islamists. We have Islamist organizations. They are not not just in the mosques. They are in government. They are in media. They are everywhere, and they have the victimhood mentality. This is the biggest weapon which Islamists have today. As long as they are victim and they have patience, they know that in every democracy they can be stronger. So we have to challenge, and Macron doing that. And if other country leaders think that someday it will not happen, the same destiny like France is experiencing right now, that people get beheaded in the street, or people demanding religious laws. If they think it will not happen in Norway and Sweden or England or Canada, they are taking wrong. They have to wake up. This is not about Macron. This is not about France. This is not about only ISIS. This is about the Western values meeting with one savage and really backward mentality. Are all Muslims like this? Of course not. Let me say this because of all the time we have to repeat. When we are talking about Islam, Islamism, this is not about the people that all Muslims are really bad people. They are not. But we have to really confront Islamism. Okay, I accept first time in my life. Yes, okay, we will talk about Islamism, because before I talk all the time about Islam, because I'm searching for theological debate. We have to bring the Enlightenment age in Islam. We have to wake Muslims and think critically about their texts and read and see the truth about their religion. But it looked like whatever we are doing, we are labeled as racist or Islamophobe or haters in the West by the leftists, most of them. So, okay, if some leftists like Macron, for example, want to bring Islamism and challenge Islamism, then I think it's a good start, a late start, but a good start. Then let's support him. Let's talk about Islamism.
Yeah. Jamal, before we move on, I would like you to answer this comment as well. Calling say, why do you think Macron is left to deal with fundamentalism alone? Why are the nations falling to support him? Are they way too afraid of the backlash? What do you think?
I think, like Yasmine said, fear. First of all, because now I'm sure that Austria is supporting Macron, because they have experienced the same situation right after Paris attack. So they are not afraid, because they give up now. They are giving up. So it is like this, this hypocrisy in the West. Like they have to leave the drama or massacre first to wake up. And this is tragic.
The thing. France had over 300 deaths in less than 10 years from Islamic extremists. So, it's not like Macron just woke up one morning and said, I'm going to fight Islamism. This has been for a very long time. The blood has been flowing in his streets, rivers and rivers of blood, before they finally reacted. And other countries have the luxury of not having that blood in their streets, so they don't feel like they need to react. So what you said is absolutely true about Austria. They are having the blood in their streets, so they are feeling that they must react. And that's really what it comes down to. It's just like they don't feel like, they don't understand this is a global problem. They're just looking at it as individual countries.
Yes, yeah. And just I saw one comment from Indian actor, a bunch of Macron fanboys. This guy don't know anything. I'm not fanboys of. I'm fanboys of Trump, my friend. Are you okay with that? It's not about Macron or Trump. It is about the right thing, okay? And this is the problem. It will happen. It has happened. Terror, Islamic terror. I remember some years ago, even it was really difficult for many media in the West to name Islamic terror.
Thank you.
Do you remember that? But now maybe we can get over that. We can give a right name to right thing. This may be a start. So I'm supporting Macron, but I am disagree with many things with Macron too. But it's not about Macron, but what he's saying and doing.
I just want to say one thing before we move on. I want to say that if Muslims fail to make a distinction between Muslims and Islamists, then in the end, Macron, Trump, whatever, it doesn't matter what his name is going to be or her name is going to be, but Western governments will retaliate and you will all lose. Because I don't know what la land you think you're living in, that you think that you're going to win. That's never going to happen. So it's in your best interest, if you are a decent Muslim, it is in your best interest to make a very clear distinction between you and the Islamists, because the Islamists are going to go down. And if you don't make that distinction, you're going to go down with them.
Thank you. Before we move on, it's like 42 minutes. Jenny is very quiet. I would like Jenny to join the seminar. But before that, I would like to answer Indian, this guy actually. 4 out of 5 people that you see on a screen are born in a Muslim family. So we know what we're talking about and who we support. So please do not be the lawyer of the Islamists in this seminar. All right, Jenny, the question would be, you are the only one in this group coming from a non-Muslim family, non-Muslim backgrounds. You are very active with the feminine organizations. I'm pretty sure you have to fight on both sides, the far rights and the jihadi Salafis that has sent you death threats during the past couple of months. How does it feel to fight against Islamism as European, Caucasian, blonde, feminine activist in Europe, in Sweden? How you actually express your experience regarding fighting against Islam?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you that I am invited here among all you ex-Muslims. And especially I want to thank the Iranian refugee community in Sweden that have always supported FEM in Sweden. And most of all, I want to send special greetings to Farida Arman, that is such a warrior, and I would not have been here without her support. And I can say that I grew up in a small village in Sweden in the 70s. And I left the Christian church when I was 6 years old, so I'm an apostate. And I had never met a Muslim that I know of. And the first time I kind of came in contact with it, I was already 17 years old. I was going to become an exchange student, and it happened to be that I was going to Egypt. So I was preparing to learn Arabic, and had it all happened, maybe I would speak Arabic with you all. But there was no family in Egypt that wanted an exchange student that was a girl. So because of that, I instead speak Spanish because I came to Venezuela. And my big dream was to become a person that travels a lot. I loved very much to hitchhike. And I had to stop with my dream because of men. So for me, it's not only Islamism that is the problem, it's patriarchy and all the consequences of male violence and oppression. So I joined FEMAN when I heard of it, and my first action was in the Stockholm Mosque in Sweden against the Muslim Brotherhood, together with Alia El Mahdi and one of our Muslim FEMAN activists from Tunisia, Mariam. This was on the day before the big demonstrations in Egypt, when Morsi had been president for 1 year in Egypt. And the reaction in Sweden was very, very against what we made. And I experienced a fast journey from being an anti-racist to being known as a racist in the public debates instead, and Islamophobic. And well, then I have experienced the cancel culture, and I was a politician for the Green Party in Sweden. I would not say that I ever have identified as left, because I've always identified as green and with the rainbow warriors of the indigenous people and of the LGBTQ community. But as I completely realized that I'm not alt-right or far-right, I have understood more and more that I am kind of left. So for me, it has also been a backstabbing when my green people have kicked me out of the community because I'm a feminine activist, not only because of being against Islamism, but also because in FEMAN we go topless in our actions. And so I would like to address, well, first I can say that how FEMAN started. It started in Ukraine, and we have three main pillars. It's a movement of women that paint political slogans on our breasts and face oppression. And that oppression is, to start with, in Ukraine, we have the background with Yanukovych and Putin. So it was against dictatorship. And of course, they sit in the knee of religion. So it was against theocracies. And that's why
yeah, Jenny, I would like to ask you something in particular, if I'm sorry for like interrupting you. You guys actually are fighting with like everyone. I've noticed like you also have a battle on the Instagram and Facebook, because I mean they like keep blocking your stuffs. due to nudity or like some sort of like what they called racism or like Islamophobia and stuff. My question would be for you personally, what's the challenge as a non-Muslim sort of background, sort of person, sort of activist, to actually fight for women's rights in Europe? I'm pretty sure, I mean, you got like so many death threats, as I said, in the past couple of months. Why do you think it's important that Europeans, like, you know, women activists, to support ex-Muslims, atheists, and secular refugees here in Sweden and the rest of Europe?
I think it's important because I think that well, I will be a little bit Macron fanboy here too then. Because I think what he's doing now is good, because there needs to be specific but more detailed than what he has than what is seen in his draft now. But there has to be direct political action against Islamism and jihadism. But for the long term, what I believe in is what we do in Femen is the shock therapy, always exposing what is forbidden in Islam, what is supposed to be offending them in Islam. So what I believe is necessary to support is not less multiculturalism, but more and more biodiversity, and making a society that is so nice to be in, and that is so lacking all that hypocrisy that I find that Islamism is really a pillar of. I think we need to create another society, that we need more people. We just need more of what is good for the bad of Islamism not to thrive. So my answer to the question before that, Yasmine answered with fear. I would say that a big problem is internet. I think that's the difference, why it's been growing so much. And I agree with Cemal that there needs to be more support for cartoonists, for activists, for artists. And I agree with Yasmine, and this is what I wanted to say before when we were talking, before this started, that the ones that do feel fear are Muslims, because Muslims know that they cannot speak out. Because they will be punished immediately by their close community. So I do not know if I answered your question.
Yeah, you did actually. The next question would be like, the problem, I mean, I've heard a lot from my atheist Islam critics friends who was born in Europe. They look like Europeans. They always have this like a sort of problem, specifically for guys, to criticize Islam, is like, anytime you start saying anything against Islam in Europe, all of a sudden they say like, you're like, you know, Islamophobe, you're racist, blah, blah, blah. In like, I do remember when I was attending some of the seminars in the left party in Sweden, Vänsterpartiet, anytime I say something against like a Islamic Republic of Iran, Erdogan, Saudi government and stuff, they immediately say like, oh, so you're racist, you actually belong to the Sweden's Democrats party, and this sort of thing, this sort of like a labeling. Why is like that? Why this? I mean, why people, I mean, mostly white people, I mean, people who are born in a non-Muslim families here in Europe have a very difficult time to support the ex-Muslim secular refugees and stuff who made this propaganda, who made this environment against the Islam critics here in Europe, you think?
Well, I would like to say that my background, not only as a politician and as an activist for the Green Movement before I became a feminine activist, I have also a background as a behavioral scientist and also as an artist. For me, it's also very important to always self-analyze myself and criticize myself, and I believe this is solution for Islamism, and in that I can look back and see how I was part of this that you are criticizing, Milad and also Cemal. Because for me, Islam was something exotic from the beginning, before I had known it. I grew up in a very peaceful culture and country where we were all blonde, everybody in my school class. So what I think is very good with you refugees in Sweden and in Scandinavia is that you have the experience that most of us who have not lived in wars, who have not lived under dictatorship, we lack this experience. And that's why even our prime minister came out after 2015, when many refugees came from Syria, and said that we were naive. And in the middle of this, the right wing never really left after the Second World War and Hitler and the Nazis. That roots are still in Scandinavia. They are still in Germany, I think. They're still in Norway. They are still in Sweden, in Denmark. We still have the roots of the Nazism. But not knowing enough about Islam, there is a lack of understanding that Islam and Islamism is also far right. I would say most people don't see how Islam is and Islamism is far right and very conservative and very anti-women rights and misogyn and sexist, and it's based on the same idea of the woman staying in the kitchen, taking care of the children, keeping modest, giving birth to many children, no abortion, and the movement that we see now in Poland with Catholicism. So for me and for Femen, we see how it's very connected. It's theocracies, it's the patriarchal religions. They have the same fundamental misogyny and sexism. But I think many people fail to see that Islamism is far right. If they would see that Islamism is far right, they would be more against it.
Can I just add something?
Sure.
I'm totally agree. You know, Islamism is the most far right ideology ever. If you ask me, Islam is far right in itself. If we look to the theology and what God say and what prophets say, but the problem is, who are, in the West, especially, again, the left, most of the left wings are labeling us like we are collaborating with the far rights. But in reality, they are the ones who really supporting and collaborating with the most supremacist and far right groups like Islam.
Very fair point, Cemal. Yeah, totally agree.
And other thing, when you talk about women rights groups and LGBT groups, I think then I just see hypocrisy a lot in most of these groups, because most of them is from the regressive left ideas and ideologies they have. How LGBT people can support Islam? I have seen many times in many European countries, Islam and Muslim are different, or supporting the people, like people's life, people's fear is different. But how they can give more space to Islam, this I cannot understand. For example, if women rights movements were not hypocritical, then we never had a child hijab. Why we have child hijab in every Western countries? This is an oppression, these Muslim girls are not equal with the other Western girls when you accepting hijab on them. They are children. And then you are people talking about women's rights. I don't believe, it's not to Jenny, it's not to you. I'm just talking about the most of them.
I want to add to it. I know. I want to add to it that when I joined the Green Party 15 years ago, more or less, and I was I was the leader of the Green Party in my municipality for 7 years. This was when I was introduced to the concept of multiculturalism, and I myself consider myself a cultural relativist, but I find that it has been misunderstood what cultural relativism really is, and it's confused with the moral relativism that accepts everything. For me, the real cultural relativism is that you have the capacity to see something from somebody else's perspective, and that makes me, I think, able to understand from what perspective somebody that joins the Islamic State comes. What is a jihadi perspective? What is the perspective of the girls that they prefer to go in hijab to school, even if they know that it's not welcomed by the far right in Sweden? So I think I can understand all these perspectives, but the difference is, and this is what I think is lacking in the cultural relativism that we see in my country, is that once you understand, you also have to say, but here is my line, and this is the limits, and this I understand, but I don't accept it. That's what I think is missing. So to be pragmatic, I think we need, I have said it before, we need to know more of what is said in Arabic and in Persian by imams and other languages, because we are not so aware of all that is said. For example, yesterday there was Salafist Friday prayer outside of the French embassy in Stockholm.
Yeah.
And most of it was not in Swedish, but there was one part that was clear, and it was that they said Hitler was better than Macron because he did not hate Muslims. And the more we can get this out, the more we can get the translation out and get the truth out, I think people can.
There is already a lot of like these videos on out actually in many years. Like, you know, Memory TV is translating a lot of imams what they are saying in all these years. But you know, even Memory TV had to fight many years to be accepted by the
Yes.
consensus. Because they call it them.
Because the first time I heard of them, I was advised to not listen to them because they are far right.
All right then.
Just a quick question. Don't you think Green Party in Sweden became a tool of Islamists?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not part of it anymore. And this is what I am personally very sad, that we do not have a political party in Sweden that is both green and both understanding the problems of Islamism. So for me, there is no party to vote at.
Yeah. All right then. We are at the end of the section 1 of the seminar. It's almost 1 hour. Time passed by so fast. Before actually we take a quick pause, before we just like move on to the second part, I would like to point out, guys, please make sure that you put your comment as short as you can. This is not a good actually comment. I cannot show it actually on the screen. Please make it as short as you can so I can show it on the screen. All right, we're gonna have a 3 minutes video talking about the ex-Muslim, the Council of Ex-Muslims activities. After that, on the like a second part, we're gonna be focused on the solutions and the future acts and strategies actually we as ex-Muslim, atheists, secular refugees actually should take. Stay with us, don't go anywhere. So I'm just gonna like, just give me a second, please. I'm gonna
out loud and proud in defense of secularism and reason is important, if only to say we exist.
On February the 28th, 2007, the Central Council of Ex-Muslims and its campaign, We Have Renounced, were introduced to the public in the Federal Press Conference building in Berlin. This was followed a few weeks later by the founding of the Council of Ex-Muslims in the UK. It was the beginning of an international movement that has changed the world and will continue to change it. The Iranian human rights activist Mina Ahadi has lived in Cologne since 1996. She has been sentenced to death in Iran for protesting against the regime of Ayatollah Khomeini.
Als Khomeini hat gesagt, entweder Kopftuch oder schlagen wir euch. Wir haben gesagt, wir möchten gar keine Kopftuch und wir möchten keine islamischen Gesetze.
But even in exile, Mina could not come to terms with the serious human rights violations in her homeland. That's why she founded the International Committee Against Stoning in 2001.
Ich dachte damals, wenn ich den Menschen im Westen erzähle, dass heute im 21. Jahrhundert Frauen eingegraben und gesteinigt werden, dann bleiben hier alle Uhren stehen. Aber rein gar nichts ist geschehen. Niemand wollte etwas über die Menschenrechtsverletzungen des politischen Islam hören. Es war deprimierend.
In April 2006, Mina Ahadi was in Osnabrück for a workshop on political Islam. On the train back to Cologne, she was sitting next to another workshop participant, the humanist philosopher and board spokesman of the Giordano Bruno Foundation, Michael Schmidt-Salomon.
Irgendwo auf der Strecke zwischen Hagen und Köln unterhielten wir uns darüber, was man tun könnte, um Minas Botschaften besser in die Öffentlichkeit zu bringen. Meine spontane Idee war, dass wir uns an der berühmten Kampagne gegen den Abtreibungsparagraphen orientieren sollten. Statt dem Satz, wir haben abgetrieben, würde unser Motto lauten, wir haben abgeschworen.
Genau so haben wir es dann später auch gemacht. Wir fanden einige mutige Männer und Frauen, die vor dem politischen Islam nach Deutschland geflüchtet waren und die bereit waren, sich vor unserer Kampagne fotografieren zu lassen.
Als Träger einer solchen Kampagne brauchten wir allerdings noch eine Organisation. Also schlug ich vor, einen Zentralrat der Ex-Muslime zu gründen, was Mina im ersten Moment wohl etwas irritiert hat.
Oh, das Wort Ex-Muslim hat mir und viele anderen am Anfang überhaupt nicht gefallen. Wir verstanden uns als Atheisten und Humanisten. Ex-Muslim, das klang irgendwie komisch. Aber es war die richtige Entscheidung, wie sich schnell zeigte. Denn schon mit unserer ersten Pressekonferenz als Zentralrat der Ex-Muslime kamen wir weltweit in die Schlagzeilen. Ich bin Vorsitzender des Zentralrats der Ex-Muslime.
In 2006, the word ex-Muslim was not yet in widespread use. Authors like Ibn Warraq, who had explicitly rejected Islam, were described in the media as Muslim intellectuals. But this was to change with the founding of the Central Council of Ex-Muslims. If you Google the term ex-Muslim today, you get millions of hits. And Wikipedia in English lists no fewer than 60 organizations that have arisen around the world following the example of the German Central Council of Ex-Muslims. A crucial part of this international success was due to the chair of the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain, Maryam Namazi, who did not hesitate to engage in provocative campaigns if necessary. This was evident in the nude protest of the ex-Muslims at the London Pride demo, which outraged some British Islamists.
A group in the UK calling itself the Ex-Muslim Council has been stirring controversy.
In 2016, Maryam got to the heart of the ex-Islam issue in a widely acclaimed speech in Washington.
For many of us, the fight for secularism is a matter of life and death. It's not Western, it's not Eastern, it's universal. That is our message today, from Washington, D.C., to Tehran, to Riyadh, to Dhaka, to Kabul, to Baghdad. We want secularism, and we want it now. Thank you.
Washington, where Maryam Namazi spoke, is now home to the headquarters of the Ex-Muslims of North America. Founded in 2013, the organization already has 18 branches, from Austin, Texas, to Toronto in Canada. One of the leading figures of the ex-Muslims of North America is Pakistan-born human rights activist Sarah Haider.
I'm an atheist and I'm a humanist, I'm a freethinker. I call myself all those things. I think they mean different things to me, and I ascribe those labels to myself. I left religion around the age of 16. I met my first ex-Muslim at the age of 21, 22. And then we decided that it'd be good to start an organization where other people can see the benefits of meeting people like them and having that support. And so we started the Ex-Muslims in North America.
5 years before the Ex-Muslims of North America was founded, Mina Ahadi and Mariam Namazi took part in a large international meeting of ex-Muslims.
Die kritische Islamkonferenz.
Wir hatten für diese erste kritische Islamkonferenz ein einprägsames Motto gefunden, nämlich Aufklären statt Verschleiern. Doch wir brauchten noch ein starkes Bild, das diese Botschaft transportiert. Ich stellte mir dabei eine junge Frau vor, die ihr Kopftuch ablegt und es als Zeichen ihrer neu gewonnenen Freiheit triumphal in die Höhe steigt.
Als ich das Foto sah, wusste ich sofort, das ist es. Das Bild von der jungen Frau mit dem gelüfteten Schleier war ein starkes Symbol für den Widerstand der Frauen gegen das Patriarchat und den politischen Islam. Später wurde das Foto in vielen Ländern verbreitet, vor allem im Iran.
On the internet, a few years later, thousands of Iranian women published photos of themselves taking off their headscarf or not wearing one at all, although this is punishable in Iran by a heavy fine. For a few months now, they have been taken to the streets every Wednesday, wearing no headscarf at all, or else a thin white one that lets you see their hair. The Islamic regime has so far been unable to find a way of curbing these women's peaceful mass protest. Their movement is growing constantly. It's no coincidence that their Facebook page, My Stealthy Freedom, now has over 1 million followers.
In vielen sogenannten islamischen Ländern wollen die Menschen nichts mehr mit dem Regime der Mullahs und Muftis zu tun haben. Die Bewegung des Säkularismus wächst dort sehr viel stärker als der Islam. Und es ist nur eine Frage der Zeit, bis sich die politischen Verhältnisse in diesen Ländern ändern.
In 2013, the second Critical Islam Conference was held in Berlin. Among the participants were ex-Muslims like Mina Ahadi, humanist Islam critics like Hamid Abdel Samad, and liberal Muslims like Seyran Atesh, who shared for the first time her vision of a liberal mosque.
In der eine Frau Vorbeterin ist, Imamin ist, in der Frauen und Männer nebeneinander beten können, wo Frauen keine Kopftücher tragen. Im Gegenteil, ein Kopftuchverbot für diese Institution existiert.
The motto of the second Critical Islam Conference was self-determination rather than peer pressure, targeting both Islamism and xenophobia. Importantly, the conference showed that both Islamists and right-wing populists, with their group-based politics of identity, have more similarities than differences. A message which Western liberals and left-wingers all too often fail to understand.
There are some on the left, and I say this as someone who is firmly on the left myself, who defend Islamism as a defense of people's culture and religion. Thanks, but no thanks. When people say that secularism is a Western neo-colonial demand, I don't know whether to laugh or to cry, because no one understands the need for the separation of religion from the state than those who live under the boot of the theocrats.
Die Bewegung der Ex-Muslime und der liberalen Muslime ist heute wohl eine der wichtigsten politischen Bewegungen weltweit. Sie ist nicht nur eine Avantgarde zur Verteidigung der offenen Gesellschaft gegenüber dem politischen Islam in Saudi-Arabien, Ägypten, Syrien, Pakistan, Bangladesch, der Türkei, dem Jemen oder dem Iran, sondern zugleich auch das wirksamste Gegengift gegen die Internationale der Nationalisten hier im Westen, gegen all die Trumps, Putins, Orbans und Kaczynskis dieser Welt, deren politische Macht nicht zuletzt auf der Angst vor den Muslimen gründet.
Their campaign for the principles of the open society, for freedom, Equality, individuality, and secularity is important. But many ex-Muslims and liberal Muslims have paid a high price for their commitment, like Raif Badawi, who was sentenced in Saudi Arabia to 10 years in prison and 1,000 lashes, or the Iranian rock star Shahil Najafi, who had a $100,000 bounty put on his head after he was accused of blasphemy. Many critics of political Islam living in Germany are or have been under police protection, like Mina Ahadi after the founding of the Central Council of Ex-Muslims, like Hamid Abdel Samad after his publications on Islamic fascism, or like Seyran Atesh after she turned her vision of a liberal mosque into reality.
This struggle is not a detail in history. It is exactly what draws the boundary between civilization and barbarism.
All right, then, guys, thank you for being patient watching the video. It was quite a long video, I guess. All right, we now start the second part of the seminar. Please try to be more focused on the strategy and the solution we should take, and hopefully we can just end the program like around 40-45 minutes. Mina Ahadi, I would like you to mention the points you would like to talk about. Your if you want to summarize anything, or if you have points you would like to express, please do. Meanwhile, I just want to point out Nariman is here. Actually, this guy is in charge of the Arabic channel for the Council of Ex-Muslim in Germany. So, guys, if you have any question regarding the Arabic channel, please contact Nariman. Actually, I cannot read the surname, but hopefully he can just put the comments. How can people contact with him? All right, Mina, the floor is yours. You can talk in Farsi, and I will translate it for the audiences. Please.
Thank you. فارسی صحبت میکنم خیلی کوتاه. میخواستم بگم که یه بحث اینجا الان مطرح میشه در مورد اینکه اسلام مثل مذهب هم خودش خیلی سیاسی هست. فکر میکنم مشکل بزرگی رو ما داریم در موردش حرف میزنیم، شامل جنبه‌های مختلفه. یکیش همینه که اسلام و همه مذاهب سیاسی بودن، سیاسی هستند و سیاسی رفتار میکنن. به نظر من این پوینت مهمیه. ولی خب
Mina is saying is we have to realize that all the religions are somehow politic. So there is, it's really tough to distinguish between the religion and political movements. Yeah.
نکته که بخوام بگم، خیلی هم وقتتون رو نمیگیرم، اونم اینه که قبل از 1979 ایران اگه نگاه کنید مردم مسلمانتر بودن لابد اون موقع، ولی وضعیت اینطوری نبود. تو کابل خیلی ها بدون حجاب میرفتن، تو مصر اینطوری بود، تو ایران هم اینطوری بود. میخوام نکته ای روش تاکید کنم و اونم اینه که ما به طور واقعی با یه جنبش طرف هستیم. از 1979 به این بر این موضوع تو اروپا هم خیلی شدید شده. هی میگن اسلام مسلمان این اومد و
اینتگراسیون از این we knew actually the Islam, the religion itself was existed for many years over there, but we know after the 1979 revolution we facing a political movement. If you just watch the photos of the people before the revolution in Iran or some other countries, you will see people were free even though Islam or religion was still in there, but since then we facing a political movement.
یه چیزی مهمه برای ما که داریم این بحثا رو میکنیم و اونم فضاسازی دست راستی ها علیه مسلمان هاست. حواس هممون باید باشه. من میخوام بگم مسلمان ها بیشتر قربانی این جنبش شدن در ایران، در عراق، در افغانستان و در جاهای
actually we all have to be careful with is the propaganda by the far right and the racist movements. We have to point out and be clear the first victim of the political Islam are the Muslims in themselves inside the Middle East.
و یه نکته هم میخوام تاکید کنم اینه که مبارزه همین مردم جوونا تو ایران، در لبنان، در کشورهای عرب زبان خیلی مهمه علیه این جنبش. اینو هم حتما همه باید ببینن وقتی میرن تو خیابون و سکولاریسم دفاع
میکنن. One other important point that everyone should be keen and like be careful about is the fight of the majority of the people against political Islam and Islamism in Middle East. When we out in the street talking about secularism, we have to see the fight of the people of Middle East against political Islam.
خب من الان دیگه زیاد توضیح نمیدم، ولی من خیلی نقد میکنم جریانات چپ رو، سازمانهای چپ، حزب چپ مثلا در آلمان رو که سکوت میکنن و این جنبش ارتجاعی رو پاسخ مردم به امپریالیسم به افکار عمومی میفروشن.
Much at the moment, but I want to use this chance to criticize the what so-called left parties here in Europe, Germany to be more precise. They're saying like the Islamism is the reaction of people of Middle East against the imperialism in West, and that's how they sell Islamism to the Western societies.
در نهایت به نظر من ما یک کنسپت هومانیستی باید داشته باشیم، یه پاسخ بدیم به این مسئله، دولت‌ها رو تحت فشار قرار بدیم، جنبش اسلامی رو واقعا در مقابلش بایستیم و دفاع کنیم از حقوق زنان، برابری زن و مرد، آتئیسم و آزادی بیان و غیره. میدونم این کار خطرناکه ولی بالاخره یک کنسپت الان میتونیم بدیم.
We need to have a concept based on humanity and equality. I do understand it may sound a bit dangerous to actually stand on the third part, but that's what we need to do, and that's what we can do. We need a concept, a human-based universal concept. Thank you for everyone for listening. Merci, Mina. Thank you, Mina, for your speech. Next speaker would be Yasmine Mohammed. Yasmine, let's talk about the solution and how we can change the future for the next generation of the people living in Europe, North America, and to be more precise, the Middle Eastern countries. Yasmine, the floor is yours.
I think that video is a great example of what we should be doing, which is that we are being very vocal with our stories and that we are sharing our stories on social media, on, all over the internet, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all of these places where people in the Middle East are seeing other free people and they're recognizing that these are avenues that I can go down as well. So in that video, we also saw My Stealthy Freedom, for example. That started from a Facebook page, My Stealthy Freedom, and then it ended up being on the streets with the women holding their white scarves and waving them in the streets. And so through social media, through people finding each other. So women in Egypt, women in Saudi Arabia, women all over the world saw the My Stealthy Freedom campaign, and it also encouraged them. So soon afterwards, there was a campaign in Saudi Arabia where women were taking off their niqabs and they were burning them. And, I never thought I would see that in my lifetime, but I was incredibly proud to see that the hashtag burn the niqab was trending in Saudi Arabia. And so I think that it's really important that we continue to support each other, that we continue to fight bad ideas with good ideas. We just get louder. The problem is, like I mentioned earlier, the fear of speaking out, because as Jenny said, when Muslims speak out, your immediate family, your father, your brother, in some cases, your cousin, your sister, your uncle, they are the people that are going to hurt you. So you are in immediate danger if you speak up. And so I think a lot of Muslims are afraid to speak up. It takes a lot of courage for them to do so. And for people like us that are living in free countries and we have that freedom And so we should be using our voices to support people who can't use their voice, who can't speak up. And I think that that's what we should continue to do. I think there's a dangerous line that some people try to talk about, banning the hijab. I don't agree with. I hate the hijab. I hate it more than anything. I especially hate seeing it on children. I think it's a disgusting, misogynist tool of rape culture. I think it's a tool of victim blaming, of slut shaming. I think it's the most horrific tool of misogyny you could possibly imagine. But I don't agree with banning it. So I think that we're constantly having to thread this needle. It's not easy to do. And like Cemal said earlier, that's what Islamists use, our insistence on civil liberties and liberalism, and they're using those tools against us, but we just have to fight back harder. And that's why, again, I think it was Cemal that mentioned putting the pictures of the Charlie Hebdo cartoons, big, huge projections of them on the buildings. That's the kinds of things that we need to do. So again, agreeing with Jenny when she said that too, that if they have a problem with cartoons, well, we just bombard them with cartoons. You don't like it? Here it is. Here's more of it. You don't like it when women show their hair? Okay, here's some women's breasts. Just keep going, because these are our values, and we have to stand firm, and we have to stand strong, because we know that they are strong, and we know that they are standing firm, and we know that they're not going to back down. And so we have to also be just as proud of our values as well.
Yeah, actually, I would like to ask you something, Yasmine. It's something personal. Like, I do remember, like, a year ago, I watched a video of yours saying, like, hijab is a rape culture. And since then, there are so many people using the hashtag hijab is a rape culture, making concepts and making, like, phrases that is meaningful. I do remember also, like, one of the feminine activists, which I can't remember her name. She was writing on her body, hijab is sexism. And since then, there are so many people repeat it again and again through the social media, creating concepts. How important you think it can be if we just, like, make, how to say, concepts, or, like, specific expressions that people can use on a daily basis. How you evaluate the importance of that? That would be the question.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely correct. That's what we have to do, because these are big, huge, confusing concepts for people. So it's like Jenny said in the beginning, when she first heard about this, she wasn't familiar. She thought that it was people being xenophobic. She thought it was people being bigoted. She didn't understand that these are people that are fighting against a fascist ideology, right? She understands that now because she did her research. But unfortunately, most people aren't going to do the kind of research that Jenny did. I am incredibly grateful to Femin. They are the only feminist group that are unapologetically against Islamism and against Islamists and against Islam in general, the misogyny in the religion. But most people aren't going to do that kind of homework. Most people aren't going to do that kind of legwork. And so I think you're absolutely correct. Having little bite-sized, clear things for them to understand. One of the very first hashtags I created was Islam is alt-right. Because back then everybody was using the term alt-right to show that it's even further right than you can imagine. You can imagine the most fundamentalist evangelical Christian, and Islam is 100 times worse, 100 times more to the right than that. And people don't recognize that. They think that somehow an ideology that will murder people for being gay, or an ideology that will murder people for being atheist, or an ideology that will imprison women for not wearing modest clothing, somehow they don't recognize that ideology is on the far right. What, do you think that those are left ideals? Do you think that's liberalism? Like, it doesn't make any sense, but they just never stop to think about it. They see brown skin, they see exotic names, and they make an assumption right away. If you're against it, it must be because you're a bigot.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Yasmine. All right, Cemal, I'm going to come back to you. Why you think people should join the Council of Ex-Muslim in Norway? How you actually how important you evaluate your activities, and how you think you can overcome the Islamism in Norway, to be more precise, and the rest of Europe. The floor is yours.
Yes, we are doing our contribution to the Enlightenment age in Islam. I hope we will get there. But we are all of us who call themselves ex-Muslims, they are giving their contribution to make Islam more less dangerous for everyone, mostly for the Muslims self. So we are doing what we are doing only when we are calling ourselves like ex-Muslim. Many people asking us still, why you call yourself ex-Muslim? First of all, because there is a problem, still there is a big problem to be an ex-Muslim today in 2020, because we want to point out, I am ex-Muslim and I'm here and I'm not afraid. It's enough with all these apostasy and blasphemy laws in Islam in 1400 years. Now we want our freedom, and we want to normalize acceptance of blasphemy and apostasy in Islam, because when we reach there, when it is normalized acceptance of apostasy and blasphemy, then it will be like the Christianity maybe. When we get the power from Islamists, then more people will come out. But as long as states and the politicians and media collaborating with Islamists and showing them like they are the representative of Muslims and gives them power, of course people will be afraid to speak out or come out like ex-Muslims. We have even our board members, even old persons like over 60, 70 years old, they are not showing their face or name in Norway in 2020. So it is, what's the solutions? There is a lot of solutions, and we are just in the start line right now. There is have to do many people have to contribute. What is that? First of all, the freedom of speech is the biggest enemy of any totalitarian ideology. Islam or fascism or racism or communism or whatever you call it. Any freedom of speech. And this is what we have. And this we have to protect. If we lose freedom of speech, everything is gone. We can't do anything. So very important in the West that we keep this value and we stop censorship. We give freedom of speech to everyone, even the Islamists. They have. So let's talk and stop censorship of all the social media, for example. Like I mentioned it, our Instagram page is closed down. Right? We cannot open even. We cannot get back even. It's also support ex-Muslim movement and critics of Islam. This is very important, because when I look back how I became an ex-Muslim, because of critics of Islam. I was a defender of Islam. I was an Islamist in the past. But as long as, in Turkey, there was critics of Islam. I was lucky enough to live in a country, secular enough country, where we had voices, writers who criticized Islam. In this time, I hated them, but they challenged me. And they changed me. So we have to give platform to every critics. And we have to stop labeling them. The other thing, states have to stop funding any Islamist organization, even mosques, including in that. We need French laicite. We need secular state, nothing more, but real secular state. This means that there will be no religion in state or public offices like school, police department or whatever you call. It will be free from any religious symbol, any religious activity. We will not have praying places even in these departments, in military. What is this? We are living in 2020 and still we are in the chain of the religions, and especially one religion some never gone through any enlightenment age. Because of the blasphemy laws like the death penalty, Islam is existing today. And we have to realize, now we feel that we have still freedom in the West to speak out, like we're doing right now. So this is the only solution, because when we look back like 300 years ago, in the West, people like Voltaire, Spinoza, and many other philosophers, they challenged Christianity, not only the church, leftists say church, not only church, not only Jesus, not only Bible. They criticized the religious one. They criticized even the priests, nuns, people's belief. And they have been called haters too in this time and that time. But today they are the like enlightenment philosophers who we are proud of.
Yeah,
the same thing.
Cemal, based on different languages, we have people who challenge Islam, as you mentioned, like in Iran.
It's not the same level, we have had, like, for example, I didn't hear yet Ali Sina, because they're calling him racist. He's Iranian guy, right? Then maybe.
Can you mention the name again?
Ali Sina. Mina Ahadi, maybe?
Ali Sina, I'm not really sure.
We don't know his face. We don't know his face, but he's the first ex-Muslim, first public ex-Muslim 30 years ago. He wrote a lot of books. He opened the first ex-Muslim page, faithfreedom.org. But no one knows. But okay, he did his job. Now today they call him racist only. Yes, we had, but in not the same level like Enlightenment age in the West. I don't believe that. But we have started. So another thing, like school books in the West. School books are lying about Islam to children. We have to tell the truth about Islam to our children in the West. Religion have to be the history of class. They have to tell the truth about everything, about Muhammad, what he did, good things, bad things. But stop lying to children. We have to. This they do in Muslim countries too. In the start, they are lying about Islam. No children in Muslim countries know, for example, Muhammad married with a 6-year-old girl, or raped woman, or killed and did robbery. Like these things. I mean, we need really a lot of things, and this. So, but the most importantly, the freedom of speech. We have to really fight to keep this value, and this is the most important one.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cemal. I would like now Jenny to actually summarize her speech and answer the question: how can we actually have actually a law that protect ex-Muslim and like secular refugees in Sweden? How actually we can just like convince the government to understand the threat of Islamism here in Sweden, and how actually the activities that feminine organization and you as a feminine activist in Sweden can affect the process of changing law here in Sweden. Jenny, the floor is yours.
I might ignore your question and just answer a lot of questions. First of all, I want to say, of course, freedom of expression, but yes, freedom of expression, not only speech. As you maybe notice, I'm not a great speaker, but I am an activist and I'm a painter, and in expression you get so much more, not only the speech. But I would say that, at least for me, and maybe for all of us, what is even more fundamental than freedom of expression is our bodily integrity, and this is what is lost for women in Islamism. And I would say that we cannot cure hypocrisy with hypocrisy, and the truth is that we do not have, as women, bodily integrity anywhere in the world. So one beginning to fight Islamism, because I think it's necessary to it's necessary that Muslims understand and recognize the double standards, the victim blaming, and their own hypocrisy. For example, in the Quran, it's important to be, the things that are important. It's like it's important for Muslims, but then you ignore it with oh fuck, sorry, I'm losing myself here. The self-insight and the humility. It's something that is important for the Muslims, but this is what I, from outside, experience as what is most lacking. It's the most lacking thing from what I see from Islamism. It's the self-insight and the humility, and then it's a lot of speaking about tolerance, that Charlie Hebdo, that France should show more tolerance, but it's always we are expected to show what Islam and the Quran does not show to us. So for this, I think that the self-insight is very important. And then as a good example, I think we should start with ourselves to show our own hypocrisy. And this is why I agree with Yasmine that we cannot ban, even as much as we do dislike the sexism behind hijab, we should not ban it on grown-ups. And for me, I even don't feel like banning anything for children. But what I want to call out is the hypocrisy. And if we go back now to Sweden, I think not even Sweden is a country that is ready for this. We are saying so much that, oh, we cannot stop girls from wearing hijab because they should be free to wear whatever they want. This is bullshit. We are not free to wear whatever we want in school. You as a girl in school cannot wear the same kind of clothes as a guy. You cannot be topless when you go to take the swimming classes. You cannot be topless when you train football in the classes of physical exercise. There is so much hypocrisy still within our non-religious society. And as long as we do not recognize our own hypocrisy, it's kind of hard to call out the hypocrisy of others. But that would be my main message here, to speak about the hypocrisy and how can Muslims, Islamists become more aware of their own double standards. And then, of course, that's what we try to do in Femin. We try to call it out with our actions. And now that I said that, if you want to repeat your question, maybe I can answer in short.
My question was like, how you see, how you evaluate how the activists that the feminist group do can actually ease the process of changing law in Sweden, so the ex-Muslim and the secular refugees would be, recognized as the people of the Middle East, and as you mentioned, the hijab for children, for example, would be banned by law, etc.
Okay, so I think Sweden and politicians do not really have so much power nowadays. It's people behind, it's companies that have the power today. Facebook has a lot more power to influence, and that would be a good way to start, to make Facebook support ex-Muslims, to make Facebook support the ones that speak up against Islamism, because what is happening right now is exactly the contrary. I know so many of my activist colleagues, especially from Iran, that are currently blocked, that they have lost their accounts. A long history of posts, of activism, of photos, it's gone. They have to start accounts kind of illegally, because you're not supposed to have a double account in Facebook. So we become like criminals on one of the biggest platforms today to change the world. Because let's face it, Facebook today is kind of more real life than you being at home in your real life, especially during the pandemic. Yeah. What is real life is being here online. And again, I think this is what made jihadism grow so much, is the access to all the other ones in the world, that they are like them, which brings me to what is said now in France against Macron, is that he is excluding and pointing out all Muslims, even if it's a minority within a minority that there are really jihadists, is pointing out everybody, and they are using the word that they are being excluded.
Yeah.
So can I say one more thing? So what I want to say, one thing that we can do, and that is happening in Sweden, and that I have a huge problem with, but what I also see is good, is the cancel culture. The cancel culture is very annoying, but it's a very civilized way also. So what I find is, like, we had these recent cases in Sweden. We had this school principal that's been so praised, the principal Hamid. He was the principal of a school. It's been very popular. It's been the Swede of the year. And then it came out his secret, hypocrite, anti-Semite, anti-homosexual, anti-women posts that he had made in another name on internet. When these things come out, he was immediately cancelled. And that's the difference from memory, for example, that you mentioned, Jamal, because this happened in the country. It was somebody that we could relate to. He had a high position in the society, and he was immediately cancelled. He's like super cancelled right now. So because of this, I think the cancel culture, even as much as it annoys me, is also a very civilized way to deal with Islamism. And then what must be done is the police need to have the resources to after these people are cancelled, also keep tracking them on internet, for example, what is going on, and then there needs to be the police measurements. And that's what I think. I do not have much hope for the politicians, but maybe they catch up later.
I just want to add, Facebook or other platforms, they don't need to even support ex-Muslim. We need to get our right to express ourselves.
Yes.
But that's it. One Turkish YouTuber, ex-Muslim, his name is Ibrahim Atabey. He had live streaming in last 5 years in Turkish language and criticizing Islam. He's living in Russia, and 1 week ago he ripped up Quran in one live streaming. And today, in every newspaper in Turkey, even the biggest one, TV channels, and even the politicians and writers writing on Twitter and want his head. Can you believe that? And when I look, it is not just people with 2 foot long beard or with hijab. It's look like you and me and everyone. People, modern people, even want to get him from Russia, and Twitter is let them write what they want. But if we write something, then we get problems, but I didn't understand. Do you think we should ban child hijab on schools?
I think that the way it is in France is a good alternative, because it's against all religious symbols. And that's the only way I think it's possible. I don't know about your countries, but in Sweden it's not as easy as in France, because we do not have the laïcité, the secularity as a part of the constitution. We are supposed to be secular, but we're not. So it's a little bit further to reach. But
I believe it should.
Symbols, I can understand it, but for me the fundamental focus in all of this is that I'm also in the bottom like a child rights activist, because I believe that children are treated as inferior with not their own rights. So that's my problem with forbidding.
But in any case, specific, only when I'm talking about child hijab, really, it should be banned immediately, actually, because
if a boy is not allowed to wear
other things,
to wear anything inside the classes.
Yes, but this is the huge topic, if you're talking about children right. But of course, it will be. I mean, it's religion-free it have to be 18 years old, you know, like smoke or alcohol. It have to come. I think I believe it will come one day, that it will be age. Like you cannot oppose your dogmas to the children, like circumcision, like FGM.
I would prefer to see that boys go with headscarves and girls go topless even when they're 10 years old. I would prefer that biodiversity as a solution.
Yes, but you know, I don't like the red herring or go around. Or children are suffering. Okay, children don't know why they use this hijab. Their mother don't know. Ask them why they use this. You know why they use.
I think they know.
Hijab, actually, you know, let me say one thing. You know, they are talking about liberals and left wings and everyone who are very proud of their past time, talking about hate speech. You know, hijab even one hate symbol. Hijab says you that you are an whore. I'm the good one. I will go heaven. You will go hell. If you want to talk about hate speech, you know, other thing, I'm not saying to you,
even more so, if I can just add something extra there too. Islam also says that a Muslim girl cannot be taken as a sex slave. A non-Muslim girl can be taken. And so that's why a Muslim needs to cover her hair so that she is protected, because she's protected from rape in the way that one that does not cover her hair is not protected. Okay, sorry, Cemal, go on.
No, it's okay. I will maybe my last verse. Maybe my last verse. I just want to, before I forget, you know, it's not about all hijab or something, but I now in Norway they are talking about hate speech and new laws about hate speech. I just want to read something here. If I write one chronicle article today and send to the New York Post, to all the Swedish newspaper, all the Norwegian newspaper, everyone, I think it will not be accepted even from one of them if they are not the right things. Listen why. I'm just telling you. Islam is, if I write this, Islam is the most ridiculous, the most absurd and bloody religion that has ever infected the world. The Quran is the book written by idiots, taught to young children to read by heart to praise morons. Muhammad preaches only slavery and submission. In Islam, neither morality nor religion comes into contact with reality at any time. Muslims are only triplets who, when they cannot explain anything, run back to the will of Allah. This is really a ridiculous way to express ignorance.
Yeah,
no
okay.
sensible I'm finished. Let me. Yeah. No sensible person can believe in Islam. True Muslims are made to be slaves. After coming in contact with religious Muslim, I always feel the need to wash my hands. Islam is an illusion, and I get its strength from the fact that it falls into our instinctive desires. Yes. Do you know, every word I read right now, it is not mine. It is Voltaire, it is Jacques Rousseau, it is Nietzsche, it is Spinoza, it is Freud.
All right, Cemal, let Jenny answer.
I want to say this. Just a second. If this is the Enlightenment philosophers write about Christianity, Christian, and Jesus and the Bible. I just changed it. Jesus with Muhammad, Christians with Muslims. Can you believe that? If this means that if I write this article today and putting all the Voltaire, Spinoza, Freud and comments in it and send to this newspaper, they will call me hater. This means they call even their philosophers haters, which give them to freedom. We are dealing with a lot of things. So I mean is that we need to wake up. Not
thank you, Cemal.
Not mix everything, but when we focus one thing, just talk about this thing. Because if we will talk, then we have to talk colony, slavery.
Yeah, I think we got your point. I think it's Jenny. Let's just Jenny talk for a couple of minutes. Jenny,
I kind of agree with you, of course. I just wanted to say, like, it was really only men that you mentioned the name of. And I think one of the answers against Islamism is actually feminism. I think Islamism is an ideology, feminism is an ideology, but this is ideology that I believe is the answer to a lot, even if there is a lot of division within feminism. But anyway, it's a good answer to Islamism. And
Yes.
about the children, I do, yes, believe that they know, because I have been working with Muslim children, young Muslim children, and I have seen their faces when young girls of 6 years old are told, not only even by their brothers, but the friend of their brothers, like, why are you wearing a red dress? Or I've been with their mothers when we are by the beach, and they are all with the hair free because it's just young boys there. No boy is older than 9 or 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then suddenly comes some Swedish men there, or men, and all the women cover themselves and start screaming the way I see other people screaming about spiders. Of course, it affects the children, but from an early age, I see it in the girls, how they feel the injustice, but they don't have the support to get out of it. So I think it's not really the rule of the hijab or not in school. It's the constant support of children to make their own decisions, and not listen to what is written in a old book by some dead man.
I think we all agree that like children should be away from religion whatsoever. Like in this term, Islam, children got no religion, and like we need a new law, or like maybe new society that protect children from the religion. Cemal, would you like to add something?
Yeah, no, just I want to say, I'm really tired about children are suffering in the West. I couldn't believe that, I couldn't believe that I will come to the West and see that children of Muslim parents will have no same rights with other children of the Western people. And they said we have to fight against negative social control, we have to fight against FGM, but they are allowing the first step. They are allowing their parents to compose hijab to them. And then later, when these children get a little bit older, and they say, many parents speak with teacher and say, my girl cannot go in the gym. And they accept because of cultural relativism, or respecting their religion, or they are afraid to be called a racist or hater. And later, they say that she cannot go to the music classroom. Okay. And later, they find someone and marry her to another.
That's me.
And when come to the there, like you allowing negative control to children from parents many years. When they come to they will cut the clitoris or circumcision of boys. Then you say, "Oh, stop there! You cannot do that." Why?
Yeah, Yasmine would like to add something.
Yes,
Yasmine, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that everything that Cemal just said is exactly my story. That's exactly it. So this is my book here, Unveiled, where I talk about all of those things that you said. And not only did my government turn a blind eye and let this continue, but they in fact supported it. So I talk about how when I was 12 years old and I went to one of my teachers to talk about the abuse that was happening at home, and I went to child services, I went to the police, I went to the court system, and in the end the judge said to me, "This is your culture.
Yeah.
This is how your parents want to discipline you. So it's different from the way other Canadian families discipline their children, but that's just your luck." So basically, it's like somebody just said in the comments, it's othering. So the othering is not only happening as Muslims, we're always raised, there's us and there's the non-Muslims, right? There's the good people and the bad people. There's the others, there's the enemies. So that's the lessons I was getting at home. But also in my society, they were also othering me. In my secular society of Canada, they also made me an other. They also said to me, if you were a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl with family from Sweden or Germany or France, we would protect you. We would protect you from your family. But because you happen to be a Muslim girl from an Arab family, that's your luck. Sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. And it's exactly the same thing with FGM. FGM is all over rampant, all over Europe and North America. If it was a blonde mother cutting off the clitoris of her blonde daughter, that woman would be in prison.
Yeah.
But when it's Somalis, Egyptians, it doesn't matter. Nobody sees it. It doesn't matter. These brown girls are not as important. Their physical disfigurement somehow is less painful. You know, they don't recognize us as human beings. Why are we valued any less than anybody else? They think that through their moral relativism or through their cultural relativism that they're helping, but they're not. They're making things worse. They're creating more victims.
I think that's also like, you know, can be seen as a sort of racism, like an upside down racism, like racist, a far right are somehow racist, and like a far leftist or like a multiculturalist are somehow racist against the secular refugees. Mina Ahadi would like to say something. I'm going to translate a couple of sentences. Mina, the floor is yours.
خیلی مهمه به نظر من. این یه بحث مهمیه در مورد حجاب کودکان. فقط آخر این جلسه میخوام بگم ما باید یه کارایی بکنیم. مثلا ما در آلمان یه کمپین داریم برای ممنوعیت حجاب کودکان. 100,000 امضا اگه جمع کنیم پارلمان آلمان مجبور این رو در دستور بذاره و امیدوار ممنوعش بکنه.
I think it's really important that we understand the children got no religion whatsoever. We have to consider and we have to think what we're supposed to do and what we can do to change the law. Here in Germany, we have a campaign for girls, like for small girls, to actually ban the hijab at schools. If we can collect 100,000 signatures, then the Parliament of Germany is forced to consider it. So we need this campaign to actually people come and like more actually sign it.
به نظر من سوئد از این نظر خیلی عقبه. یعنی من وقتی میام سوئد اصلا خفه میشم اینقدر حجاب زیاده تو خیابونه اینا و به نظر من همه اکتیویستا تو سوئد هم باید یه کاری بکنه.
I think Sweden is way behind the schedule in that term. Anytime I come to Sweden, I really feel suffocated. There are like so many hijabis and like so many hijab for children. I think all the like women activists should do something in Sweden as well.
یه نکته دیگه هم بگم، ما در مقابل مساجد تظاهرات میذاریم و خواهان بسته شدن مثلا مسجد وابسته به جمهوری اسلامی هستیم. به نظر من این حرکت باید خیلی جاها جلو بره، برای اینکه تو مسجد علیه بیخدایان، علیه همجنسگرایان تبلیغ میکنن و فرمان قتل میدن.
We actually organize demonstration in front of the mosques. We have to realize the threat of mosques because inside the mosque they promote Islamism, terrorism and anti-women sort of ideologies.
من حرفم اینه که باید صورتمون رو نشون بدیم و نترسیم. دیروز تظاهرات بوده توی هامبورگ، اسلامیا فراخوان داده بودن در دفاع از ترور و محمد و نمیدونم علیه شارلی هبدو و ما در مقابلش تظاهرات داشتیم. نریمان اونجا بوده و به نظر من همه باید این رفتار رو بکنیم. یعنی باید بیایم تو خیابون متحدانه علیه اسلامیا انواع اقسام فعالیت ها رو در دستور بذاریم. خیلی ممنون، وقتتون رو نمیدید.
I think it's important to show our face. Yesterday, for example, there was a demonstration at the mosques in Hamburg. The Islamists were trying to promote Muhammad and Islamic rules. We organized a demonstration over there. Nariman was there. Nariman, the guy who just put some comments. I'm hoping he's still with us. Nariman was there at the Hamburg demonstration. These sort of things should be repeated and should be somehow our plan to overcome Islamism. Thank you for listening. All right then, ladies and gents, I think we are at the end of the seminar. If any of you would like to talk, please, you can have a couple of minutes to summarize. If not, we can end the seminar. Is there anyone who would like to add some points? I guess no. All right then. I
just want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you, Milad, for organizing this. Thank you for everybody for joining in. I really appreciate this time, and I just wanted to say that I want to give an extra special thank you to Jenny, actually, because I know that it was, it's more difficult for her to be here because she doesn't come from an Islamic background. And so there was so much more that she had to overcome in order to join us here in this session. And I think that's something that we overlook quite a bit, that when we ask for our liberal allies to support us, they immediately get attacked with racism. You're racist, you're bigot, you're Islamophobe, all of that stuff. And so when we have, blonde-haired allies like Jenny, I think it's important that we really say thank you very much for putting yourself out there, because we know how you're getting attacked.
I also
thank you to all of you too, and I feel that you are my homies.
Yeah, Cemal, please.
I also want to thank you so much to Milad and to everyone here, and keep doing good work. And I will repeat again, and now I don't say freedom of speech, but freedom of expression. It's right. It is the most important thing. If we have freedom of expression, I'm not afraid that we will get rid of Islamists and we will get rid of any dogmas. So let's keep it that and continue doing good work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you all for being here, and the audiences, Alexander, Kemal, Atiye, Marcus, Colin, Ian, and all the people, Esther, all the people, Menno, the people who watched the seminar and like put us comment, Hulda, sorry for missing you, and all the people who watched the seminar. Thank you very much. And hopefully we're going to run like a similar seminars in early future. Thank you. And since then, take care, everyone.